My name is Bellamy. I am 28 years old. I came from the funeral to tell my parents and sister that my husband had left me. 3 apartments and a house. By the sea. And even as I replay that moment in my mind, my chest tightens the same way it did that day. Heavy with grief, yet strangely hopeful. Because despite the unbearable loss of the man I loved, I believed I still had family. I believed I was walking into the one place where I would be held. Comforted, protected. But when I entered the house, I overheard my parents talking, their voices low, urgent, the kind of whispers that instantly make your stomach drop. And I froze in the hallway, my hand still resting on the doorframe, my black dress smelling faintly of lilies and incense, my heart pounding as my mother said words that would shatter something inside me forever. We have to move quickly before she understands anything. The lawyer said the evaluation will be enough. Once she's declared mentally unfit, the estate can be controlled. I remember not breathing, not even blinking, because my brain refused to accept what my ears were hearing. And then my father's voice followed, cold and practical, stripped of any warmth I had ever associated with him. She's always been fragile. No one will question it. After the funeral, she's emotional, unstable. It's the perfect timing. What they said made me turn pale. My legs trembling so violently I had to lean against the wall to stay upright, because in a matter of seconds my reality twisted into something unrecognizable, something cruel, something I never imagined possible. My own parents discussing me like a problem to be managed, a weakness to be exploited, a barrier standing between them and my late husband's $4 million estate. My mind raced back through years of memories, searching desperately for signs I had missed. Moments that now seemed poisoned with hidden meaning, the subtle questions about finances, the sudden interest in my marriage, the rehearsed sympathy after my husband's death, and a sickening clarity began to form. This was not spontaneous, this was planned. My sister's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. Hesitant yet complicit, asking, "But what if Bellamy fights it?" And my mother responded with chilling confidence, "She won't, she trusts us. And even if she tries, the medical reports will speak for themselves." Medical reports, evaluation, mentally unfit. Each phrase echoed like a hammer striking my skull, because I knew exactly what they were referring to. A brief period years ago when I had sought therapy after a traumatic accident, something I had openly shared with them in vulnerability, never imagining that my honesty would one day become a weapon aimed directly at my life. Standing there, hidden, listening to the people who raised me calmly orchestrate the legal erasure of my autonomy, my grief mutated into something sharper, something electric, a mix of disbelief, betrayal, and a rising, unfamiliar resolve. I felt like an outsider spying on strangers, yet every word carved deeper into my understanding of who they truly were. And as the conversation continued, discussing documents, timelines, and the lawyer guiding them through it all, I realized the most terrifying part was not their greed but their certainty, their absolute confidence that I would never suspect them, never defend myself, never see them as enemies. In that hallway, surrounded by family photos and childhood memories, I understood that I was no longer safe, that the home I had run to for comfort had transformed into a stage for deception, and that my vulnerability, my mourning, my trust, my love was being calculated against me. But what they did not know, what none of them could have imagined, was that my husband had prepared me for this possibility in ways I barely understood at the time. His cautious insistence on transparency, his habit of documenting everything, his quiet warnings that money reveals truths people work very hard to hide. As my parents' voices faded into logistical details, a strange calm settled over me, not relief, not forgiveness, but a focused, steady awareness that changed everything. I was not powerless, I was not naive, and most importantly, I was not without proof. My silence ended because that day in the hallway I did not collapse. I did not storm into the room. I did not give them the satisfaction of seeing my shock. Instead, I walked back out of the house as quietly as I had entered, my pulse roaring in my ears, my mind moving with a clarity I had never felt before, the kind born not from confidence but from survival. Grief had already taken my husband, and I refused to let betrayal take the rest of my life. In the car, my hands shook so violently I could barely unlock my phone, yet instinct guided me straight to the one person. My husband had always told me to trust if anything ever felt wrong, his attorney. My voice cracked as I spoke, but I chose my words carefully, describing what I had heard without dramatics, without emotion, because this was no longer a family matter. This was a legal ambush. There was a pause on the line, a long, heavy pause, and then he said something that changed the entire battlefield. "Bellamy, your husband anticipated external pressure. You are not walking into this unprotected." Within hours, I was sitting across from him, numb yet alert as he opened a folder I had never seen. A contingency file my husband had created quietly, methodically, without ever alarming me. Inside were records, letters, certified copies, and most importantly, a sealed digital archive containing video statements, financial structures, and conditional safeguards. My husband, the man everyone believed was simply generous and successful, had been far more perceptive than I ever realized. He had documented patterns of behavior, unusual inquiries, subtle boundary crossings, things I once dismissed as harmless, curiosity from my parents about our finances, but he had not dismissed them. He had watched, analyzed, prepared. The attorney explained the architecture of the estate, the triggers designed to activate if my legal competence was ever challenged, and as the implications sank in, my sorrow mixed with a fierce, burning gratitude, because even in death, my husband had refused to leave me defenseless. Meanwhile, my parents accelerated their plan. Confident, I remained the same trusting daughter they believed they could outmaneuver. They scheduled evaluations, contacted specialists, constructed a narrative of instability with rehearsed concern, portraying me as emotionally incapable after the funeral, a grieving widow supposedly detached from reality. The cruelty of it was breathtaking, their performance of care, while engineering my disempowerment. But this time, I was not the unsuspecting participant. I attended every appointment, answered every question, complied with every process, and I did so with deliberate composure, knowing the true confrontation would not happen in clinics or private offices, but where facts cannot be whispered away, the courtroom. The day arrived with an almost surreal stillness. My parents seated across from me, faces arranged in expressions of sorrowful duty, my sister avoiding my gaze, and for a fleeting moment I saw the full tragedy of it. The people meant to shield me now gambling on my silence. Their case leaned on implication, selective history, and the assumption that grief equals incompetence. But when it was our turn, the atmosphere shifted in a way I will never forget. Evidence is a different language, one immune to manipulation. The attorney presented the digital archive. My husband's recorded testimony projected into that room like a voice cutting through time itself. Calm, precise, undeniable. He spoke of his intentions, his concerns, the safeguards he had installed, and with each passing second, the illusion my parents had constructed began to fracture. Financial logs exposed inconsistencies. Communications revealed motives. Their quiet strategy unraveled under the weight of documented reality. I watched confidence drain from their faces, replaced first by confusion, then disbelief, then something closer to fear. Because the foundation of their plan, my supposed helplessness, had evaporated. The judgment that followed did more than protect an estate. It restored my autonomy, affirmed my competence, and dismantled a narrative designed to erase me. Yet victory carried no triumph, only a sobering clarity about trust, about perception, about how betrayal often hides behind familiarity. I walked out of that courtroom, not as a victim of a scheme, but as someone permanently awakened to the necessity of self-advocacy. Loss had tested me. Deception had cornered me. Proof had liberated me. And if my story reaches you now, it is not merely a recounting of injustice, but a reminder that silence is not the only response to betrayal. That preparation can outlast manipulation. That truth, when preserved, becomes armor. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, remember to subscribe to the channel and stay with us for more stories that reveal how resilience rises when it is needed most.